had to be said about him, especially when he signed Tim Tebow. And how was your experience with him? Because I've heard amazing things about him, but I want to hear from you because I think you spent some time with him.
Yeah. So he was my roommate in low A and high A.
Welcome back to ROG Gets Real, the baseball edition, where we have unscripted conversations about everything baseball. Our goal here is to help educate and share everything we know about the game of baseball. And here's your host, Roger Gonzalez.
So this is Michael Paez, a good friend of mine. How long have we known each other, brother?
Dude, a long time. You're Little League, right? Like
pretty much. But I mean, the last thing that I remember was Back to Sunset days. That's what I don't know if earlier than that I'm sure we played against each other, but
definitely. I think high school is when I definitely met you. I think we actually talked, but I remember playing you when we were little.
Yeah. And we got some of back of our boys, Mikey Perez and a bunch of our boys here joining us. So the main thing that I wanted to do with this is just kind of talk a little bit about your story and also just give an opportunity. I mean, I know we have a bunch of younger guys and guys who are still playing the game to just learn from this. Give them an opportunity to hear your story, hear your journey, and also, if they ever have any questions about whether it's the recruiting aspect, the strength aspect, the hitting aspect, or anything like that, for them to have an opportunity to actually ask it.
For sure.
And that's kind of what I plan on doing moving forward. I plan on bringing in people from the baseball world, people from, just the fitness world, and give people opportunity to talk. So, with you, man, I mean, you've done a lot. You've done a lot in your career. I mean, you got in the college route. I mean, you were my rival. Let's not forget that. I mean, you were at Costal Carolina, which was we hated each other.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, what you guys did there, it was 2016, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about that. How was that journey? How was let's start there.
Yeah, so at Coastal, my freshman year so I was highly recruited from Winthrop, going, I believe, my junior year of high school. I had two camps. I had on Saturday and Sunday. Coastal was on Saturday, Winthrop was on Sunday. Had a good camp on Saturday. Coastal offers me. I didn't give them anything yet because I wanted to go to Winthrop. And Winthrop, when you first pull into the school, I mean, that school, I mean, it's immaculate. Like, it's like Harry Potter type stuff.
Yeah.
So when I first pulled in, but it was a little like out there. So I was like, I don't know, whatever. I did the camp, did well. They offered me. I took some time to think about it. I ended up going Coastal. So right there is when I told the coach from Winthrop that I wasn't going to the school, is kind of when the rivalry for me internally started. Just didn't like the way he handled it. I'm just a kid. Kind of just made a decision.
Trying to figure your life out, yeah.
Decision to make. And I understand, like, you're recruiting a kid, you really want him, but the way it was handled wasn't kind of like the way I was pretty respectful, like to a kid that's 18 years old.
No, absolutely.
Internally, that's my own, like, I got to beat Winthrop every time. I don't even care if we win, actually. I just want to hit and play the best defense I can every time. So I go into my freshman year. I'll speed through that. We had probably, I think it was the third worst season Coastal could ever have, or has ever had, like, in their tenure.
This was your junior year?
My freshman year.
Your freshman year, okay.
College. So I'm just like, I got into this program thinking, like, holy crap, like, I'm in Coastal, and we were ass. Like, we were bad. And we lost to Winthrop at home and lost 2 out of 3. It was like the first time in I don't know how many years that happened. So I'm like, did I just make the worst mistake? I'm at this school with all this hype, and we're not good. Like, I don't know what happened. And then sophomore year comes around. It was a very young team, I will say. We brought back everybody. We made a regional. And then junior year hits, and this is the year we won it all. We started the year 7-7, and in college baseball, 7-7 is not good. Like,
no, we're not supposed to be 500, especially not at our levels. If you want to be competing with ACC and stuff, that doesn't fly.
Yeah, so 7-7, and again, we're playing snowbirds, so like, and that's how you set up your schedule. So we're 7-7. Our coach had a meeting with us. Chewed us out, kind of told us what our expectations were. And from there on, we had our internal meeting with our players only, coaches kind of just told each other, like, dude, this is it. Like, all our friends are seniors. I'm a junior. There's a couple of juniors, but mostly everybody was seniors. And we went on to win, I think it was like 18 or 20 in a row from that, right after that meeting, and winning big series. I know you came to us, I think, that year.
Yeah, we did. That was your inaugural year of the new stadium.
Yeah.
That stadium.
That's sick. Yeah, man. And that just propelled us, man. We just kind of felt like no one could beat us. Didn't matter who was on the mound. I mean, people don't understand, like, mid-major schools still has like big arms, big time players. Like, even you guys had that, I don't remember his name, but
Matt Crohan was a big guy.
That was, I mean, a guy like that, it's like that kid could pitch in any school he wants, So then when we did face the Florida or UM or whatever it is, we've seen it before.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing. It was just confidence. And then, just get hot in the right time. We ended up winning it all.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you notice let's talk specifically from the high school to the college level, because you went here to Sunset, which right across the street from me, from you as well. And which, I mean, you guys had a gym there and all that, but from the whole high school aspect of it to go into college, what do you think was like the biggest slap in the face for you? Whether it be like organization or just like the baseball and stuff, what was that for you?
Yeah, I would say it was the strength part. In high school, we had a weight room. No one used it like at all.
Yeah.
I mean, some guys wanted to just do their forearms or whatever just to look good, but like it wasn't anything like important. But I would go on my own with to like a strength coach. But again, it wasn't as like organized, like, or detailed, like what am I working on today? Like, for baseball related stuff. That's what hit me when I went to college. I was 160 pounds going into college.
Yeah, you're always a smaller guy, especially around everybody else.
Yeah, I was, and it didn't help. I mean, I wasn't 6'1", where I'm like, okay,
no.
I has projection where he could be
5'7",
5'8", 155 pounds. So when I got into college, the first thing they did was we need to add 15 pounds ASAP. However we could do it. That's
okay.
And our strength coach was the football guy.
Okay.
Both. And that was my freshman and sophomore year. He added me. We did a lot of football stuff. Wasn't great when it comes to like, we had a lot of injuries happen freshman and sophomore year. But he did give, like, I think I left my freshman year 175 pounds. So he put the weight on me and it felt great. Like, that's what I think that was my best playing weight, was 175.
Dude, they're so light still. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it's so light, and it's just, I felt still athletic. I felt, mobile. Granted, I didn't have like how you are. I didn't have the knowledge of like, if I eat properly, plus the weightlifting and, all these intricate parts, I could be 195 and still feel the same. Right. I didn't.
Yeah. And that's something that I've noticed a lot is really lacking in the baseball world. I feel like there's a lot of people that are touching the hitting aspect, a lot of people that are touching the actual lifting part of it. But when you see guys in the big leagues that are like skinny and wiry and have your kind of pop, like if you start looking into the background and start seeing where they come from, they usually come from families that have played the big leagues, family that knows the game and have, fortunate for them, the financial means to be able to bring in that knowledge. And that's what allows those guys to be so fast, wiry, and have all that strength, is because they're not just hitting the gym like a meathead, but yet they're eating the right way, they're eating clean, they're doing the right things, and that's what's allowing them to be, ultimately be the best that they can. And I would say it also for me, like what you just talked about with you, I remember it was my sophomore year to my junior year of high school. I did the exact same thing as you. I put on 20 pounds, and I did it the same way. I remember I was waking up at 5 a.m. to have like 1,000 calorie shakes. I was eating 7 times a day. It worked, but You know, it wasn't. It's you just got flabby. It wasn't. You know, so there's different ways to do it, and it takes some knowledge to do that.
For sure.
So,
and it hit me the most when when I was at I left college about like 175, fluctuating to 180 maybe. And then I had in pro ball with the Mets, I had the same thing where I was at weight and I played well. But I remember the Mets told my agent was like, hey, we need Mike at 190, however that is. And in 4 months, essentially, that's really spring training's coming around. It's like 4 or 5 months later. So plus you're on your own. So I didn't have they didn't tell me anything. They're like, just we need you at spring training 190.
And don't roid.
More than 180 in my life. I played in it.
Yeah.
People don't think that, okay, you get to this weight, but now you got to perform the same way you did when you were 15 pounds lighter.
Especially as a middle infielder guy. You know, it's a little different if you're a corner guy, but a middle infielder who's still got to be quick, stealing bags, that makes a difference.
Yeah, 15-pound, putting a 15-pound vest on your body, imagine running around trying to catch it. That's what it is. So it's it's different. So again, I would have loved to have you 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But it was just one of those things, and it wasn't taught, or wasn't like a big thing. They just said, put this weight on, swing this fast, this is where you need your launch angle to be, show up at spring training. So it's like, do you have the resources, the money, the people around? It's hard. It's hard.
And I will say I would say we grew up in a generation where there was some information out there, but it was so minimal. We had bodybuilding.com. There was I remember I would spend nights up on YouTube trying to figure out what's Albert Pujols' workout regimen, what's, Bryce Harper's regimen. And not all of that applies to everybody. But now there is a lot of, it's more accessible. You can DM anybody in the way that, social media is working. If there's any strength coach you really want, you can honestly email them and message them, and they'll help you. So, some stuff, obviously life is not free, but that's part of it. And it was so different. The other thing that I like you talked about with the Mets, that they asked you to put on a certain amount of weight, and they didn't give you anything. They didn't tell you, oh, here's a program, here's that. How much of a slap in the face was pro ball to see that, the workouts and the stuff that they had you do was just staying healthy kind of stuff?
Yeah, it was all maintenance. It wasn't necessarily building anything. They did give us a workout plan in the off season, and it was the most I worked out with Mikey Paez, and I'm sure he saw my workout, what they wanted me to do. It was I ain't gaining 15 pounds in 5 months. I might get my hamstring to feel a little better or whatever it is, but it was, and it's weird because, and you were in pro ball as well, higher profile players get different treatment, right? Mm-hmm. It's well known, it's everywhere, even college, high school level, right? To me, it was a little different in pro ball because now it's money involved.
Yeah.
You get guys that are going to these well-known, baseball, workout guys, Cressy. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's a GOAT.
Yeah, him and all. These guys are finding a way to get these guys in there, and with deals and however, whatever it is. And guys like me is well, here's your workout, show up, and this is what it is. So that was a slap in the face when it comes to that. It's okay, so this guy's already going to be ahead of the game because he's going to be with one of the best workout guys out there. I got to find a way to do it back home in Miami, and I got 5 months. So yeah, in that aspect with the Mets, it was kind of that was the biggest, you could see the different who was a guy that they helped out and who was a guy that kind of had to do it on their own.
Absolutely. And I think when that happens, you have two alternatives. One, research and learn what you can, but that's not feasible for everybody. And I can tell you from my side, I come from a family of, physicians, well-known, educated people, and I tried to learn everything I could. And honestly, what that did is that got me hurt a lot, because I would try to implement these things that I didn't really see if there was research, because it wasn't as easy to find that research back in the day. That was already, almost 10 years ago. If you really think about when, the big strength part of it, we've been away from the game for a little while now.
Right.
So, And I think that to me was my big mistake. It was I would try to do so much things that I didn't know when to pull back. So I would hurt myself or go find somebody and pay them and do that kind of stuff. But for some people, it's not feasible.
Right.
So it's, trying to find the people that actually can really help you and have not only know the textbook aspect of it, but actually know like what it's like to
put it into
play a doubleheader and still have to wake up the next day and, still get into the, like that takes a beating and there's so much more to it than that.
Sure.
But
yeah, and I think also a lot of times in a guy like me where I wasn't taught that how important the working out and the eating was compared to like what you actually do on the field. You prioritize your workouts in the off season or your what you want to do accordingly, right? So like for me, my strength was hitting.
Oh, you had
So all I wanted to do was hit in the off season, right? Because that's what I know I'm not going to be stronger than the guy next to me. I'm not going to be taller. I'm not going to be faster, but I'll put the barrel on the ball more than him. So that's what I want to do and create, like be the best at it. So, but it kind of hurts me because then I'm like, I am weaker. I am less faster. So in Mets and like pro ball, it's all about analytics.
Mm-hmm.
Really care about what kind of like baseball player he is. Like what can he be in the future? And it hurt me because I mean Mikey Perez is one of those guys that he always wanted me to work out, but I'm like I'd rather go swing the bat 300 times. I'd rather go catch ground balls. I'd rather go do whatever it is on the field. But it's just as important being in the weight room and eating right. So I was disciplined in the baseball aspect, but not what it took to be like in the weight room and the food.
And I feel like I would say that it wasn't so much that you weren't the discipline as you probably didn't. You yourself hadn't acknowledged how important that was.
Right.
And because if you would have been like, all right, I'll hit 2 hours and I'll go work out for an hour and a half instead of hitting for 3 hours,
Right.
So what you talked about your bat, because definitely that was what made you the player you were, especially for the size you had. Your
Right.
pop was just there's no other word than just to say stupid. It was just crazy, like what do you attribute that to? Do you think it was just God given or like
yeah, it's hard because I've tried talking to people about it and like I've done lessons with kids and it's hard to explain, but like yeah, I think how good I was putting the barrel on the ball, because anybody that barrels the ball up is going to be a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Typically hit pretty hard. So I feel like I just naturally was really good at barreling balls up and a consistent level. And at the same time, it was just the feel of the game, kind of like, I don't know if you felt like this. When you feel good, it feels like every pitch is coming, right? Like, it's just like, it's crazy. I felt like that often, especially in high school. It's like I almost knew what everything was coming, just because like I felt like my knowledge of the game at hitting wise, like I just knew what could happen or what's gonna happen 2 steps ahead. So I'm like, all right, this guy just threw a fastball like in. I know he's probably gonna want to go breaking ball away. If he misses here, he might. Like I already was processing that before any of that was coming. And in high school, it was very predictable.
Yeah.
Typically, and in college it is too. Like guys hard in, soft away. It was like the favorite thing to say. Like, and in reality, it's like there was times in college where I would get beat inside on purpose, like
to set them up,
just to set them up for a breaking ball away, and I would hit sliders really well. So it's like things like that was like I don't know what it was, and it's just I think that played a part into my pop because I barreled balls up, and I just and I knew like. I put on my ace swing every time. Like, never was defensive unless it was on purpose, and I knew I wasn't going to put anything in play. But every time my intent was to hit the ball as far as I can every time.
Yeah. No, so before I continue, so for everybody watching, at any point, if you guys have any questions about strength, fitness, baseball, the path, anything at all, just keep putting them inside as we keep talking. I wanted to, because you definitely were a launch angle belief kind of guy. You were a drop and drive, let it ride kind of guy. Was that always your swing? At what moment did you kind of decide that? Because like you said, you were great at barreling the ball up. I don't think that applies to everybody. So just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I think it was, as a kid, that was my swing. Right? It was like try being as flat as possible to the zone and finish high and get the ball in the air. I feel like people my height, my like size is probably not the most ideal, but as the game started transforming, it was transforming to a swing that I already had. So so when I went to like Sunset, you would know like Manny Paez, he's and line drives, ground balls, beat like your speed,
move them over kind of guy.
But like I didn't fit into that. Like I know like my body type, that's ideal, but that's not who I was. And it took him a little while to kind of like be like, all right, fine, I'm not going to bother more about it. But yeah, it was just, it was kind of my natural swing that society or baseball world kind of like went into before. Because I've had so many coaches be like, Paez, you're a 6'8" runner in the 60, why are you hitting, you're a 2, I think it was a 2-3-1 fly ball to ground ball ratio. But it's like ground balls are outs.
Yeah, especially at the next level. Like any ground ball is an out at the next level.
Right. So it's like, what do you want? Like, this is a really good example. And kind of, thankfully, I moved past it pretty quickly. But when I first got drafted, I was in Brooklyn. My hitting coach told me I need to hit more ground balls in batting practice. That I need to hit like balls on the ground, line drives, so I could steal bases. And I was like, okay, so he's changed my whole swing completely.
I think I heard about this. I don't think we've ever talked about it, but I think somebody told me about it.
He changed my swing completely, swing down on the ball. Like literally, he wanted me to hit choppers to shortstop in batting practice to emulate that in my head. I hit 191 in short season in Brooklyn. And I had to go in the offseason, and I was like, okay, I just got drafted in the 4th round. I'd had a great college career. In the first week of pro ball, they changed my swing completely to a different person I am. That I don't know. Like I have two choices: either go back, keep trying to do that, or go back to doing what I love to do, and it's hit the ball in the air. And that's what I did. And thankfully, I came back and had a great year the next year. But yeah, it's something that I was born doing, and I couldn't go away from it at all.
Yeah, so let's not undermine that, because that's something that a lot of people kind of deal with, and I've dealt with it pretty much in every track of mine. Was the fight between the coach they obviously want the best. You know, they're obviously going to tell you, hey, this is what I think you should do because I've seen it, this and that. How did you deal with that in the sense, especially in pro ball, and when it's coming from such a high authority figure, right? It's not just from your coach, it's coming from up top, and usually that's coming from the GM.
Right.
How did you, like, I know I'm sure you spoke to your agent about that. How was that transition for you? Like, what?
Right. It was tough. It really was, because I'm a guy that was always trying to be, I'm a yes, sir, no, sir. Like, I would, like, you tell me what to do, I'll do it. Like, I'm not, right. Even with Paez, like, he wanted me to do all this stuff. I would say, yes, sir, yes, sir. I tried, but it just, in high school, it just naturally happened. I couldn't change it. And he kind of knew that. But in pro ball, it's like a different level. Like, you grow up watching major league players, major league teams. So when you're there, you're literally going to listen to whatever they say, no matter if they tell you jump off a bridge. You're going to be like, if that's going to make me a better player, sure, I'll try it, whatever. Yeah. And it was hard, because in the off season, I went to my hitting coach, which is Teckerman, and he saw my swing, and he was like, the first 5 swings, he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And that's why I hit 190. And it was tough. And he had a talk with me, and I talked to my parents or my dad, because obviously he was right there the whole time. And it was just one of those things, was like, I moved on to the next team. That coach that happened to be there wasn't there. And and it came down to being like, if you could show your swing the way you do it and have success, they won't say anything. Yeah. And it was where I went to Columbia Fireflies, which was low A. And I got called up halfway year because, I had 8 home runs. I had 25 doubles in the mid-season. So it's like, okay, so this guy should be putting there a little more. He shouldn't be hitting ground balls. I'm not as fast as you think I am, but that was just where my game was at. And thankfully that's what happened. I just winged it into the next year.
No, absolutely. And I agree with that. I feel like it's always trying to find that happy medium between, yes, sir, I'm going to try it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then if you really don't believe it, at least tell them yes. 'Cause
Right.
you can't tell one of these guys, no, you don't know what you're talking about. That's not an option.
Mm-hmm.
Look like you're actually trying, and then do what you got to do. Because that, like you said, if you're putting the bat on the barrel, the ball in the barrel, and you're just producing, they can't tell you no. That's what they're paying you for.
Right. Right. And that was the problem. It was hard because in pro ball, you get guys that are, legends that are back and being coaches, right? And not necessarily just because they had a great career doesn't mean it works for everybody. And that's what they're going to teach, which is fine. Like, that makes sense, right? They're going to want to teach what they had success in. And that's the caveat. It's like, you have to find what works for you and then try to get little things from different places that, like I agree. Like, maybe I was hitting the ball too many times in the air, right? I get that. I got to bring the ball down, or but at the same time, I'm not going to swing down, or I might have to lay off pitches that are up because that creates balls in the air. There's little things that I could pick and choose from it. And that's the hard part, is like, either, because I know a lot of our generations are, like, I'm going to do what I want to do, or it's going to be completely trust that person, where, it might not work. So it's finding that middle ground.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Damn, I just had a thought that I wanted to ask you as you were talking about that. Okay, I got it. So the other thing I was going to say is, in pro ball, I felt like for me, a lot of the things that they tried to teach us was finding your routine and finding your consistent kind of thing. Was that something that you noticed in pro ball, or did they try to implement that in back in college, or how did that work for you?
Yeah, I think in college they tried implementing like a routine. And again, I was very naive when it comes to the body, when it comes to routine, because that's just as important as what you do before the game on the tee or whatever it is. So I had my own hitting routine I did before every game in college. And in pro ball, I started seeing guys around me was like going to like the weight room, getting activated, whatever it is, it's something I never actually, I never actually did, because I was just like, I'd rather go get some balls off the tee or flips. And it's something that if I could go back, or if I could, give advice to a player that's going up and coming, is that, like, take care of your body, like, when it comes to routines before the game, activate, whatever it is. And you know better than I do when it comes to what body parts do need to be activated before the game and stuff, and listen to your body more. But yeah, that was my routine. It was just tee, flips. I would do eye stuff, just to get my eyes ready for the game, because that was just my most important thing, was what am I going to do? Yeah, for me, it's like, if I go 2 for 3 or 1 for 3, that's a good day. So everything I did before that, if I got 2 for 3, it's a good day. So that's how I saw it.
That's that. No, you hit it on the nail there, because that is the mentality you're supposed to have. Realistically, having the mentality that you're going to go 4 for 4 you're not going to do that. Like, that's not something that's going to happen on a consistent basis. So just, taking your wins is the right approach to be having, because the game is a failure. You're going to fail. Like, it's,
right.
And then the other thing that I wanted to point out that you talked about there with the routine, and I feel like it was maybe a little bit more in the pro ball side that I want to, talk a little bit, because I feel like these conversations that we get to have, very, very few people get to have them.
Right.
And I mean, I wish I could have just sat down and seen two ex pro players just talk about what they did and understand it. And that's kind of why I wanted to do this. And it's like, for example, in pro ball, when you're playing every day, because it's realistically what you're doing, you're just hitting live, you're catching ground balls, and it's like taking every single rep as it was your last, because all of that starts to beat up and it starts to add up. And it's like, if you start half-assing a couple reps here and there, your hands just started to drop 3 weeks later. Your hands are now here when they used to be here. And now you're like, why am I keep hitting fly balls?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. And that's where I saw it the most, was that routine in the professional level, because it's all on you. I don't know if you notice, like, it's not, you don't have a babysitter where my hitting coach is like, all right, Paez, let's go hit in the cage, or guys, this is like, you show up and this is your day, your schedule. You have 30, your whole day is planned for you.
And it's realistically like where you're supposed to be, like group wise. It's not like, oh, today you're going to take this many swings alpo. It's like, hey, between this time, you're going to be at this cage over here.
Right. exactly. And then to me, at least with the Mets, I don't know about the A's, but with the Mets in Pro Bowl, it's like, all right, guys, this is our schedule every day. Be at the field at 1:00, game at 6. Here's lineup. That's it. So it's like whatever you do for 5 hours is on you. It could be hitting, it could be defense, it could be like, hey, someone come out, throw some long toss at me, strengthen my arm. Could be activating, lifting, whatever it is. And then for lift is like you have to lift 2 days a week. It doesn't matter when you want to do it. Just days. That's what you need. And our strength coach would be there. He'll be sitting on his table. He sees guys, check them in. He was there. Mm-hmm. And I could have done nothing. I could have been there for 15 minutes.
But it's your career. And that's the thing that you gotta have to realize. And kids don't realize that until it's too late.
Yep. And that's exactly what it was. And it was a shock because I was like, I just had my whole day planned for me. And now I'm here for hours and we have food or like a kitchen. It's like, I can see guys all the time playing cards all day, ping pong, but you can easily get caught up in that. Or do you set up your routine? Are you disciplined enough to follow it every day, even though you have aches and pains? So that was the hard part.
No, absolutely. I saw a couple of questions that were asked there. One of them said, hey, Paez, I hit with tech also. How often and how important were the dry cuts for you? And we'll be answering some of the questions now, guys.
Okay, so dry cuts. So for me, I hit with tech every day, pretty much in high school. It was harder in college, obviously, I was away. But he did teach me a lot about using my hips and being flat to the ball. So I necessarily didn't do much dry cuts, but because I'm not one of those people that like that, I like actually hitting the ball and seeing ball flight, seeing what the ball's doing. So my dry cuts were kind of like hitting an actual ball.
Tell me a little bit about what the dry cuts are. I never hit with tech, so I didn't know.
Yeah, so I think what he's talking about is he likes like just the motion of feeling like this movement.
Okay.
With your like palm up.
Okay.
So that's what I believe what he's talking about.
And if we're not answering your question, I think it was Ruben. Go ahead and just kind of throw it in, and we'll address it.
So I believe that's what he's talking about. And I know Tech, when he first hits with people, he likes having them do it like over 100 times a day just to get that feel of like that palm up, flat.
Gotcha.
And it was something that, again, like, and Tech will tell like anybody that hits with him, and if he talks about me, it came naturally to me. All his tools he uses and flat bats, it kind of like, it was like almost made for my swing. So it wasn't like something I had to do often to like get into that spot, anything like that. But if you're someone it feels really uncomfortable, then yeah, like those dry cuts are pretty important because it kind of like makes that swing happen.
Perfect. Yeah, and Ruben just responded. He said pretty much that's exactly what he was talking about. So good job answering his question there. And then I had somebody else. I don't know your name, SAR 8392. It says, what advice would you give any college baseball player? I guess what's your first thing you go on there?
There's a lot, but
yeah,
thing I would say is time management for me was as a college athlete, because like you are a baseball player, you are a student. It was like one of those things that you at the baseball field, you see how many guys come in is like from different parts of the country, different ways of baseball happening. Guys might be a little better than you see them, and it's like you want to do, everything you can to be a better baseball player. But for me, it was like what made me like successful, I think, was like setting up my day, like, and executing it when it comes to like baseball. I didn't want to be at the cage for 4 hours with these kids because all they want to do is, and then in the beginning, I don't know if it was like that with you and Winthrop, but it was like everyone gets a gauge of who they are and they kind of like try attacking you about it. Like if I was a lesser defensive player, so guys will always like, I don't know, like come at me about like hitting it or like defense and stuff like. And I don't know. I just wanted to make sure my day was planned and I wasn't going ahead of myself and getting like worrying about, that guy might have my spot later, or like worrying about like the roster. It was, for me, it was just making sure I'm doing what I need to do every day and I'll get rewarded at the end of the day. And I feel like because college is a lot goes on at once.
Where do you think you learned that from? Did you naturally just learn that, or did you have a mentor that kind of was like, hey, this is going to happen, watch out?
I kind of, for me, I'm a person that I like to joke around, and I always like to be in the light, like the one like telling jokes and stuff. But also, if I'm in a weird, like an uncomfortable situation or like in a new area, I always sit back and watch and kind of see what's going on. And I saw it already happening when I first got there. Got like comments here and there, like telling the guy that was already there, the starting shortstop, like, "Oh, Paez could hit. Paez could do this." Like, and telling the kid. So he's already worried, and what is he doing? He's at the cage 3 hours a day. But that's not what type of player he was. He was a defensive player. So it's like he's getting out of his regimen or his just to like, because he's worried, right? And stuff like that happen all the time. So it was like, I'm not going to let that happen to me. I know I could hit. I know my defense is not great, but I'm going to do what I know can make me successful in this world. And it's kind of like how I did it, just watched and just always in the back, like just learning.
No, absolutely. And that's beautifully said. That's a very mature thing and something that not a lot of people realize. So it's a little too late, unfortunately. I will also add to that with another exact same point, but a little different twist is what you were talking about, the little groups and all that kind of stuff. How often did you see and I'm gonna call it the bullshit talk that would happen all around, and guys would kind of like lose focus on what they're doing? And I would specifically say this for arms, for if you're a pitcher, and if you're a pitcher and you're warming up and you're not taking every single one of ththose throws, like as it's your last throw, because realistically you can only throw 120, 150 balls in a day. So if you're just half-assing and talking shit while you're doing that, like it adds up. Right. And then later, you're not realizing you're not taking your reps seriously. Same thing for us back in the cages, Yeah. And I feel like, was that maybe that was one of your reasons why you like to, did you always hit alone? Did you hit with like your squad? Like, how was that for you?
It was, I will say our team, junior year, we weren't very, I'll say cliquey, but you knew what guys took the game seriously and what guys are like, this is their pro ball, this is, they want to enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
Different things. And for me, it was my freshman year was, let me find like the group of people that I know are going to are taking it serious and are going to get me better because I want to be around them. And it was hard because our freshman team was very toxic group. It was very cliquey, very like me type of guys. And it was hard. So I hit alone a lot, or I hit with there was a couple of guys that are my lifelong friends that, we won it with each other. They came to my wedding, and thankfully, I was blessed to meet them and we created a great relationship, but it wasn't very a lot of people. It was 4 or 5 of us that were grinding every day in the cage alone at night. Thankfully we had this beautiful, hitting with the lights on and everything. So we will go at 9:30 at night, go watch some basketball, football, and then go after when everyone's gone and all of them are partying and, getting drunk and having a good time. Yeah, it's college. I know that's part of it. But, and I will say, I did not get drunk one time in college. And not saying that it's great,
no, that's impressive, but I get you.
It's not a bad thing if you do it at all, but it was just one of those things that I knew, I was here to do something, and it was to play baseball as best as I can. And if anything could hinder that, I don't want to do it. And I found a group of guys that believed in the same thing.
Yeah, that was one of my points that I was going to talk about, because as I don't remember exactly who asked, but when they said, what's your number one advice for college guys, that to me was something that it took me a long time. And I want you to kind of talk about this, tell me what you think, but it took me a long time. And it was actually once I hung up my cleats to realize that not everybody sees baseball for the same reason, in the sense of for you and I, it was pro ball or nothing. It was pro ball or bust. And being realistic, being real, it was the big leagues or bust. Right. It wasn't just sign a contract. It was the big leagues or bust.
Right.
But that's not the case for everybody, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's what I want. Because for me, it was I don't understand why you're not hitting till, 1 a.m. every day. I don't understand why you're not, I don't get it. Why are you out? I just don't get it.
Yeah.
But some guys are, they saw college as maybe an opportunity to pay for school, maybe as an opportunity to live a life that they wouldn't have otherwise, or they just flat out just love the game.
Right.
And did you notice that? Like, did you notice those differences, or at what point or whatnot?
Yeah, I noticed it right away freshman year. And that was one of the things that I try like explaining is just like, know who you are. And like for me, again, in high school, never drank, was just that kid that always went home. I went out sometimes with friends, but never did any of that stuff just because like my parents were on top of me about it all the time. And when I went to college, now I'm in another state. I have my own dorm. I could do whatever. And it was like, when I got to college, it was like, okay, I didn't come here to sit. Like, I never was a bench player, never felt what it was like to pro ball later on. And it was like, I remember I had one, it was the first inter squad we did. I played the 5th, 6th, and 7th, 8, 9, whatever. And I sat the first 4 innings. And I'm like, this is miserable.
Sucks.
I am not going to be this type of player. Like, no way. Like, I don't care. And the kid was great baseball player, like great kid. He ended up transferring over to another school where he had a better opportunity. But the kid that was there playing shortstop, he was that kid. He was the kid that was loved around the campus, had a great time, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
And I was the opposite. I had great sleep every night. I hit in the cage at night. I got ground balls at night. I did anything I had to do that made me better. And realistically, I think that's what made me jump over him in the depth chart. But yeah, and I feel like it's hard because like in my opinion, and I don't know if you're the same way, like you didn't go to college just to say you went to college to play baseball. Like there was a reasoning behind it. And then from there, it's like, now you got to the next part. It's like, well, now I'm here in order to get here. And it's like, I think a lot of kids just feel like I'm a college baseball player. This is good enough. And it's hard. I don't know. I don't have that mentality. So I don't even know how that works thinking otherwise. I
feel like that also might just kind of be your nature. Like it was like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to be the best at it and flat out till it gets taken away or whatnot. That's at least how it was for me. Because that's how I am right now with, all my other endeavors that I'm trying to do.
Right.
But let's answer a couple questions. So one of them says, as 2 ex-pro players, what are your thoughts on the Mets? Thumbs down. I don't really know exactly if you want to tackle that or what he means by that.
Talking about. Okay, so I'll say the Mets, different from the Oakland, right? Oakland's not a really big market team.
What does he mean by that, by thumbs down?
Down is Lindor and Javi, like a whole team. They're getting booed. But the Mets are getting booed because they lost like 20 of the last 29 or something like that, and they're in first and lost that lead.
Okay,
they're getting booed, and then the Mets started hitting well a little bit the last couple of games, and every time they hit a double, single, home run, they put thumbs down, and that's acknowledging the fans saying, well, we're going to boo you now because you're which I don't mind it. Like, it's one of those things that, like, baseball, you got to make baseball fun, right?
Yes.
And it's things like that make the game fun. Like, they love their fans. It is what it is. Like, you're going to love your fans no matter what. If you're a fan base that's going to completely boo a team when they hit a rough patch, and then they start doing well and they boo you guys, like, it's interacting with you guys.
Yeah.
You know, like, they're here. That's showing, like, hey, I hear you. We suck right now. Well, now we're doing good, and we're going to boo you for booing. Like, it's just wrong with it. I don't. And I know it created a lot of chatter about it.
I'm sure it has. And I actually want to talk about you guys at Coastal Carolina because you guys love the game. You guys were always – what was your leadoff guy? Mark. Bro, when that guy got on first base, you guys knew you guys were going to have a great inning because he was just your adrenaline, your everything.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing in pro ball now with Javi Paez and the Padres shortstop. Say it again? Tatis, yes, bro. These guys are just having fun and just playing the game like little kids. So I'm 100% with you on that, man. I agree.
Yeah.
So then another question that they had for you is from the guy that played with our in the show right now. Oh, so from guys that you saw that were in the show right now, what was something that made them different and that pretty much made them who they were, if you've got anything?
Yeah, I would say, so thankfully when I made it up to AA, so, like I got to do some spring training stuff with the big league team. And it kind of is what we talked about is their routines before the game. It's crazy how how strict. They don't waver from anything. Like they do every day. They know exactly what they need to do. They know what they have to eat. Their day, like how we said, like our college, they made it for us. We did it. And they were so good at creating that for themselves and following it every day. And that's what changed. Like a good example, and this was before he got suspended, but Robinson Cano, he was second baseman with the Mets. And dude, it was crazy. His like batting cage routine, it was the same every time. It wasn't anything like, he wasn't even taking swings that were 80% or more. It was just feel the whole way. And he did it every day, every time I was over there. And then his weight room routine, he was such a big dude. And you wouldn't think like how thick that guy was.
For real? I didn't know that.
Yeah, dude. I mean, and granted, like he did get popped for steroids and stuff.
Yeah.
But like that, it wasn't like I think it was more like he used it for more of like recovery stuff. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like how flexible he was, how like what muscles he's targeting, like to get activated before the game. It's different. Like their focus before the game, what they do is just on another level. Like there's nothing in their brain that is ping pong or like what am I going to do? What I'm going to eat after the game, or I can't wait to go out after the game, or talking about anything. It was like
work.
Yeah, I'm working right now, and that's the difference.
No, I totally agree with you. And that's kind of what I was trying to get at a little bit earlier with the routine. It was to get to this conversation, right? Because that's something that I noticed once I started to implement. I saw the big difference. And not only that, but when it comes, with the strength side or the hitting side, not a lot of guys get to figure that out. And that's why we're always still chasing to get better.
Right.
But when guys do, and when they stick to their guns and they stick to what actually works, those are the guys that make it to the league, man. Yeah. Because it's just about being consistent, especially if you have an opportunity like we did to make it to that level. You got the skills. Now, can you perform consistently, and do you get your breaks? Which,
right. Yeah,
it's its own thing in itself,
Yeah, and there's a whole completely different conversation, but
yeah. Which is, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit, because that's something. I'll start it that way. You can kind of think about however you want to go about it. But for me, I dealt with a lot of injuries in pro ball. And not only did a lot of things happen, I lost a couple of friends during that time, but I realized how little control we had of our lives and how the big guns up top were kind of deciding what was going on and what not. And that was the moment I decided to leave and kind of pick the rest of my route. But I don't know. What happened with you? What do you want to talk about? It's up to you,
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit of kind of like my decision on retiring. And it was a little later in my career with the Mets, but I ended up kind of seeing a lot. But I will say, and I don't know if you could agree, but being in a big market team comparing to a smaller market team, I feel like the minor league system is treated differently. And we both are not like you weren't with a big market team. I wasn't with a small market team, so I can't like testify completely, but I played against them. I know you see the guys coming up, you're like, I played against this kid. How is he here? Or like different things. But I will say what makes it hard for a guy, let's say like a guy like me that was with a big market team, is they don't care about their minor league system that much, right? Because they go buy their players. So I could grind. I could be the best shortstop. I could hit 315 everywhere I go, and they're gonna buy Francisco Lindor for $315 million. No matter.
That's so true, bro. I hadn't really registered that.
Right. So it doesn't matter. So, and I'm not even speaking on myself, but we had a couple guys that were top prospects, young, like 20 years old in AA, AAA, like sniff the big leagues a little bit, finally get their chance the next year to know like I could be the guy. Well, peace out. You're traded. Now you're going somewhere else, and we're going to buy Lindor for $350 million. And now, what does the 16th round pick that just got drafted as a shortstop? What is he going to? How does he have his imagination in the big leagues when you have him for 10 years?
No.
And, okay, maybe I could be second base. Well, they just got Javi Baez and just traded their number 3 prospect or whatever, and he's another $200 million player. Plus, Robinson Cano is waiting in the wings. Yeah, he's a $200 million player as well, right? So it's hard because, like, depending on the team you get drafted by also is luck, right?
Yeah, bro.
You're in. So guys like the Rangers, Houston's tough now, but before,
Yeah.
Pirates, they rely on their minor league system. You perform well, you getting called up.
And there's nothing you can do about that.
There's nothing I could do because I have to wait my turn anyway. And I'm not going to wait 10 years for Francisco Lindor to like finish his contract. That's $300 guaranteed. Like, they're going to stick to him.
No, your break there is getting traded. You're hoping to you're talking to your agent, hey, I need to get out of here because.
And you prove, how do you tell another team, hey, I'm a AA player, trade for me? What pieces do they want? They have that piece in another team in their organization. So you're not like, granted, there's obviously exceptions.
Of course. But
it's to the guys that like were mid-rounders or guys that are 5'8", 170 that are just good baseball players. It's hard. And that's the breaks that I feel like I kind of didn't have like going into it. The Mets, I think their shortstop was a young guy. So I was like, when I first got drafted, I was like, this is great. Like, I might have a chance. I could keep working. Then they moved me to second base. Then they moved me to third base. Then they moved me. I caught my last year.
I remember you reached out to me about that when it was going to happen.
And I caught a little bit. I never caught in a game, but I caught live at bats and stuff. And they put me back at third and second base. But
how was that? Talk to me about that real quick, bro. It's hard.
I would never do it, bro. That was the worst experience of my life. That was when I knew, like, honestly. So I just came out like. My career with the Mets, like, people might think I quit and, like, why did you quit so soon? Or you could just one more year. They don't know what it takes at all.
No, they don't.
They don't know what it puts on your body, your family life, like your food you eat, like your sleeping situation. Like, they don't know. And so I just finished high A. I just got named like an all-star, end-of-the-year all-star for the season. I never got called up, which was a slap in the face because I was leading the team in every category. And what's supposed to happen is you play well, you get rewarded, right? Didn't happen for me. So I was like, that's fine. I got named all-star. I was all this stuff. So I was like, all right, I'm getting acknowledged by the league. The Mets had to see that. Going into AA, I knew I was going AA next year. And they call me like a week before Christmas. So that means spring training's in 2 months or a month and a half. And we got a new GM, new everything. Whole minor league like team is completely different. The guy calls me, introducing himself. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, he knows who I am. Like, he's calling me. He's like, hey, by the way, we want to move you to catcher. And that's when I knew my career is not going to be much longer if that's what they need to do to move me.
To keep you around, yeah.
Around is become a catcher. Like, granted, you're a catcher.
Yeah,
you don't up in pro ball and just do it. Like, some guys do. Riamuto, I think, was Buster Posey. Guys like that, they did it. But those are like the elite of the elite. Like, no one just picks up catching like that.
And what I will also say, though, is that from a small figure, because I think you're maybe like an inch or two taller than me. Like, we're both small. Like, what I'm trying to say, we're both small guys in the world of baseball.
Right.
Dude, it takes a beating out of your body, and people don't realize that. I mean, so like right now, and it's funny because today I went to the gym and I saw Bobby Ramos, he was the Marlin he was the catching coordinator for the Marlins for many years, and all that kind of stuff. And we were talking about everything you just said about how hard it was, and talked about, and I was telling him how pretty much every single guy who I played under or who took my position is currently in the big leagues, whether that's Zach Collins from Miami or Sean Murphy, who's currently the everyday starter for the A's. If you look at those guys are big guys. And those guys can handle every single day playing because they're not playing at 100% every single pitch. Right. They can play at 50%. Their bodies can just handle it. While, let's be real, that leg kick of yours and that every time you swung, you were trying to kill the ball. Like same thing as me, It adds up.
That's a good point. And that's what hurt the most. So like when he told me that, at first I was like shocked, but then I was like, you know what? That could be a thing. I don't know how hard it is, but I'll try it. That first week,
bruh,
when I say I couldn't feel my ass, like I could, and I would hit 95, no problem. I'll see it. Catching 95
with sink, with run, with move, that's what's different.
Like it was bad. And then like obviously in pro ball, guys throw 100, don't know where it's going, and then spike it, and I'm terrified. Like I wasn't like, it wasn't for me. And
did you wear a cup when you played the middle infielder?
I'd wear a cup the first time.
That alone is like a huge deal. Like people don't get it, but yeah.
I did it in inter squad. Like I think we had like a whatever, and I wore a cup to catch. Obviously, I was catching, and then I'll take it off to go hit because I couldn't do it. So
the leg kick wouldn't go high enough.
No, it was bad. And like then when I got into spring training, I was working. I was still trying to do it. Like I was doing, like I said, I was like yes sir, no sir type of person. And they moved me back to second base, but I felt so behind in hitting because I was trying so hard to learn this position. It wasn't like learning outfield where I could just catch fly balls. It was like, it's a different game. Pitch calling, blocking, like all this stuff. Changed it. Like I felt behind. And then when I got to Double-A, my first week, I played one game the first week. Coming off an all-star season, I was a guy that wasn't playing. So then I think I ended up playing like half the season. Never been injured. I never got hurt. Like I was blessed. Never got in my baseball career. Like college, high school, never missed a game for anything.
Wow.
I played half the year in Double-A because I just didn't play. Not what I wasn't performing well. It was just I wasn't a guy because we signed a 30-year-old Double-A player. We signed a 28-year-old, like a bunch of guys from everywhere, and I just wasn't playing. So then I was like, I had to make that decision. And it's like, do I keep my wife moving with me everywhere I go?
That was just
making no money, or
those $1,200 a month that doesn't,
where you got to pay $500-$600 for rent.
Yeah.
So it was that was when I knew. I was like, this is not where my career was supposed to go. But
so let's talk about that. Now that we're post the game, and we kind of, I think, I don't want to say blinded by the fact that it was for us, it was pro ball or the big leagues or bust, because I think, both you and I had really good parents, had really good structure. And I know your father very well. And, you got your education and you had a backup plan. What would you tell kids that are, kind of going through it and how, kind of going back on that end? It's like, what is your suggestion for kids about the game will end one day?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah, and it was hard for me because it kind of happened like it wasn't a rash decision, but it was like season ended. I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, but I was trying to like please everybody else, and it was like I didn't want to be like embarrass people, like, or embarrass myself. Like if I tell them, they're like, hey, like when's your next game or whatever, and I'm like, I retired, or like they don't know that decision you have to make. But when I did make it, and I knew I had to get a job, and here's the real world.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's made me like a great employee. Like, so whatever you want to do, whatever it is. So for me, I'm a recruiter. I find people jobs essentially for a construction company. For me, I always find a way to make it a game in my head.
It's the competitive nature.
Yeah. So it's like, for me, it's like I have to hire a certain amount of people in a month. Like, that's a game for me. So then and for me, like, it's once that game is over, don't think like life, you're like that personality you had in the game is over. Like, take it into your career because that will always benefit you. Every boss I've had, haven't had many, but a couple. Like the one thing they always told me was they loved how I always came into work like ready to work, and like my personality, and I was always willing to do whatever they needed. And it's something that we learned in baseball. It's like it was bred into us. Like you have to be disciplined. You have to be, like ready to work hard, and that doesn't change no matter what you do. Sports,
Same thing as the failing aspect of it.
Exactly, and that's something that. I mean, not a lot of people do. I feel like there's other things in this world other than sports, obviously, but
of course,
especially, it definitely teaches you how to fail, and that's going to happen, obviously, in your careers and all this stuff. And you're going to get, declined, or you're going to get. But it teaches you like how to react to that and what's your next step after. Rather than, I feel like a lot of our generation now is woo me sometimes, and, like. Pick yourself up, and like, there's going to be another opportunity coming. It's just, I think that's a good point. Like the failure aspect of it, I feel like really is what you need to implement.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And to everybody watching, if you guys have any more questions, we'll probably be in here for like another 10, 15 minutes. And if maybe I missed them or whatnot, make sure to add them in. I see one of the questions that says, who are y'all favorite players? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about who was your favorite player and who did you try to emulate the most?
Okay. So favorite player probably be Altuve, obviously, giving that.
Yeah.
But I'll say player I tried emulating. Huge Marlins fan growing up. He had the leg kick.
Sorry, can you say that again? I don't know if it was my internet or what, but I didn't hear what you said.
So Hanley Ramirez was
okay.
Emulating shortstop out of Miami. Obviously, like we watched him growing up. He had the leg kick, swing, like had the uppercut kind of swing. Played great shortstop, flashy. So for me, it was him. I saw how much power he generated, and it was just one of those things that like that's who I tried being every time I was on the field.
Cool. What about in the? Well, he was also a middle infielder guy till he got jacked and then went to the corner kind of guy.
I would say for defensively though, I was such an offense.
You just didn't care. You're like, I'm gonna produce runs, and then if it happens, it happens.
Yeah, like that's what I never was a guy like that really cared about that. But I know like Jose Iglesias, like guys like that.
Bro,
I got to play with Cabrera. What's his first name? He was with the D-backs now. Cabby. I don't know, whatever. He was one of the best defensive shortstops I ever seen. And watching like a guy like that in person is kind of more impressive than the hitting part. But yeah, I always cared about offense, so I only that's all I watched.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna name drop one guy for you that I would like you to talk about because I feel like he was what's the word? There was a lot of good and bad to be said about him, especially when he signed Tim Tebow. And how was your experience with him? Because I've heard amazing things about him, but I want to hear from you because I think you spent some time with him.
Yeah. So he was my roommate in low A and high A. My locker mate.
First of all, how big was that guy?
He's huge. He's probably like 6'2", 6'3". He's like 250 pounds and he had about like 6% body fat.
Damn, he was shredded.
Before spring training games, like at workouts, whatever, he would be benching 315, like cake, just to activate, like stuff like that. Like it was really like that's exactly how he was. It was cool being his teammate and like knowing him off the field as well. Super hard worker, like didn't understand that it's not like he's the not normal. Like his mentality is not normal, but he doesn't get that. He's thinking like that. And why aren't people thinking this way? So that's what it's a struggle for him because when he talks to minor leaguers or kids that are just made it to pro ball and they're sore and they want to like take it easy or like that doesn't exist in his head.
He doesn't know what that is.
No. And I remember vividly. So he took me under his wing. Like we were really close. And in high, that year I did really well. I played about 57 games in a row. Right. And there's not many off days.
No,
So
there's none.
yeah, none. So
It's like 2 before spring training. I mean, before the All-Star break, and then 2 after. That's it.
yeah. So I played 57 in a row, which is a lot of games at like, I played third and second mostly. And there was a day that we had a lift before the game, and I like couldn't get myself to do it. My body hurt so bad, but I knew I had to go. So I was there. I was like, beyond, I was being so lazy. I was like, get ready to play. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I had a hamstring problem, but I'm like, I need to get my hamstring ready to go. So all I did was foam roll and like put like a lacrosse ball. And that's all I did for like 30 minutes. And I went back and got dressed and was ready for my game. And before I got ready for my game, Tim's like, hey, Mike, let me talk to you. So I thought he was going to talk to me with some crap, whatever.
Yeah.
He takes me outside. We start walking the stadium, like inside, like the warning track, all the way around. And he's ripping me apart, like saying, like, do you think you got better today? Like, if you want to be the best, do you think the guy in the shortstop on the other team right now is working out? Like all this stuff, like making me put into these perspectives, like what I did today is not going to cut it. He's like, if you go 2 for 3 today, is the GM going to bring you up to the major leagues, or did you get yourself stronger to get ready for the major league? Or, that's how he saw it. And I didn't even know what to say. It was bad. It was like getting like grounded from your parents. So he was like, mind you, like, it's a big stadium, so it was a lot of talking, and he was just like, pretty much that's what he was telling me, like, putting in perspective, like, yes, you getting ready for today's game, well, that what you just did there hurt you months.
Your career.
Yeah, and it was hard for me because I always lived in the now. I was like, I need to get ready for today's game, how I'm going to get there, what I'm going to do. So I was trying to get my hamstring right. So I lacked on the lift. And the fact that he watched me do that, like he said he watched everything I did. He's like, you did this for 14 minutes, then you moved over and you did this for 5 minutes, then you did this for 3 minutes, and then you left. Like, he knew everything because he cared. But
of course, that was going to be my next thing that I was going to bring up was, did you see that, like, because like you said, he was your roommate, you guys, he took you under your wing. It was kind of like you guys built that relationship. One, it takes a lot of balls for him to do that because he doesn't owe you shit. Like, let's be real. You know, he obviously cared enough to be like, hey, stop eating shit and let's go. But bro, that's probably why they were so great at Florida when they had him.
He would tell me a lot of stories, and he was that kid that, like, if I remember, he told me it was one player, it might have been Percy Harvin or someone, a big name player, overslept practice, right? Like, they got to practice, he wasn't there. And Tebow knew he lived in his building, so he took it personal, like he messed up because he didn't up. And he grabbed Percy Harvin, I think it was, and like went and like ran the stadium with him the whole day. Like, the punishment, he joined, and he was like, "This is like, I'm gonna do it."
I messed up too because
and it was like things like that. It's like we're so selfish, and like, I was there, so like I shouldn't be in trouble. But like, he has that like different mentality. Like if Percy Harvin's not there, our team's not good. So we have to, that's just how he saw things. And like he was like trying to be like a father figure. Like, he's been around the block, knows it. So he like thankfully like gave me that knowledge and like different things like that. So I was blessed to play with him. He was honestly like a great dude, and like knowing all the things he believed in off the field and all this stuff. So,
damn, dude. I mean, no, we hear so many things. The media destroys him, the media builds him up, and it's great. One other thing that I'll say is, and I'm sure you saw this, and it takes a lot for a lot of people to see that, is these big leaguers, these famous people, they're just normal people that have a little different mentality and are just obsessed with what they do.
Right.
But, it's like that. Like, people talk great about him, people talk bad about him. But then when you actually meet people who have actually been with him, dealt with him, they speak good stuff, and they just kind of, and bro, I mean, I don't think I could really list anybody else that would do something like that. I mean, that's what we try to do as a captain, as anything like that, but it's not as easy.
Yeah, and he didn't have that. That wasn't his that wasn't his role on the team. Like everyone knew, like there like guys on our team like didn't like him because he's taking a roster spot or he's just or whatever. So like he knew he was already looked at. Like it was a weird dynamic. It's still Tim Tebow, so people in front of him is like respect him, like do whatever he says, and then when he's not around, you talk crap about him and say like, oh, he shouldn't be here, blah blah blah. He knew that I wasn't like that. Granted, when he first got signed, I was like, what? Like, why is he doing
that? Yeah.
When I saw him hit, I was like, okay, this guy could do it. Like, he could hit. Like,
I mean, I can only imagine when he barreled the ball, how far it went. Dude.
It was ridiculous. Like, the ball's, like, it's like he was swinging this in BP. The ball, like, you have to hit it twice in order to reach where he just hit it. Like, so it's like, you're like, okay, that's fine. It was insane.
It was a chance. It was a chance opportunity. That guy actually figures out how to hit. He's a Hall of Famer.
People don't understand. Like they want to like shit on his career in the baseball world. And he might have hit like 215 or 230 or wherever he did. The kid didn't play for 15 years baseball ever. Didn't swing a bat. He played in high school. Then picked it up one off season to try to get signed. He got signed, picked it up, and hit 215 in pro ball. Like that's impressive.
Yeah.
I hit 190 and I tried. Like he just did it. And like it shows how determined he was. There was one offseason where the national championship or one of the bowl games was in Miami and he was covering that game, the college football stuff. And he calls me up and he was like, hey, the game is tomorrow at night. I had like some things to do for media stuff. I have a window from like 10 to 11 at night. Do you have a batting cage I could go to? And it's like something like it could just be a weekend where he just takes it off, does his media stuff, cashes his money in, and then work after. But he like needed to find a time to work out, like at a gym somewhere, and he needed an hour to hit somewhere. And thankfully I called Tech up and we got the keys and we opened up and he hit for an hour. But it's like things like that. It's like it's just different.
Yeah, and he cared. It wasn't like this wasn't a media stunt for him. He actually wanted, to do it.
Ends were because you know how much we hit, and it builds after years and years where you could just swing and nothing happens. But his hands were destroyed. When I say destroyed, like he had surgery twice to take out that blister thing.
I've had a couple friends have that. Yeah, we know what we're talking about.
But he had surgery twice to take it out because it's that bad. And he hit through it somehow, wrapped his hands. Like that's how much work he was putting in. So like,
I have a feeling that the pain he went through in football was nothing compared to what he was feeling there. But
he broke his ankle. And not many people know this. In spring training, he broke his ankle stepping on a sprinkler head. Got like I think out the rest of the training. It was like a week, and he played the rest of the season with a broken ankle. And all he did was rehab it. Did all the things he had to do to make it better. But I break my ankle, I'm done. Like I'm cashing that in quick. But he played 100 games or whatever. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people that are just built differently, I guess, and it's just the mentality, man. It's kind of, but he also is a freak of nature in like physical aspect because it is what it is, Sure. But dude, that's awesome. I mean, I love hearing stories like this, and it's awesome. If anybody's got any more questions, we'll give it another 5 minutes here. And Mikey, if you got anything else, any other nuggets you want to drop for anybody going into pro ball, baseball, anything like that off the top of your head, what do you tell them?
I will say, I guess, believe in yourself, trust yourself, know what got you to that point. Because I think a lot of times, like we talked about a little bit, you want to people please a lot because you're in a situation where you're trying to make everybody happy. But in the end of the day, they only care if you do well. They only care if you're succeeding. So worry about yourself. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing on your team. Just make sure what you're doing is you're putting yourself in the best situation to be the best person you could be. And I think that will lead to success, even if it's off the field, on the field. I think that is the best thing I could advise.
No, absolutely. And you brought up one thing that I wanted to talk about that you just kind of made me think about. At what point did you realize that this game is not just a game? This game is a business.
Oof. Like almost immediately, like in pro ball. Like
that's kind of late. It took you a while.
Yeah, it took me a while. Like college, it felt like high school to me. It was like there's a kid in front of me. I gotta beat him out. I beat him out. All right, I'm gonna be the best player. We try to win. That's it. That's all I thought about. When that contract was written out and I signed it, and then I saw other players next to me talking about their signing bonuses and like all the different stuff. That's when I was like, okay, this is definitely a business. This definitely, and seeing like, okay, that kid's $1 million. Let's see how they treat him. This kid gets a plane ticket here. Let's see how he's treated. That's when, and that was the first week of pro ball in Brooklyn. That's when I saw it.
Interesting. I'm going to write a comment on what they just said. Did you know you're on MLB The Show? Did you know that?
Yeah, I did.
I'm assuming that they're talking about you because I know I'm not. Like
I suck.
That's awesome. What's your rating?
Probably like 64 or something like that.
Hey, dude, that's pretty cool. That's a checkoff. That's a bucket list.
It's cool. It is cool. My friend sent it to me one day. He's like, I'm not going to cut you, but you're on my bench. I'm like, that's fine.
Do you have the same swing, the leg kick and everything?
I don't think so. I think they do like have my position right and kind of like have like my attributes I'll agree with. Like it's pretty, but
gotcha. I think is it Diana Blanton? I think it's somebody that you may know that's writing that. I don't know if you can see the chat. And I'll address what you were talking about with for me, I noticed it was a business when I left Miami. I feel like I was going to say that to you. I was wondering because you played at Coastal your whole time. You didn't have to go the transfer route or anything like that. And it was the moment that what realistically what happened was Zach Collins was coming in, and I get it. I mean, that guy's a freak. I mean, and I love Zach, and if Zach is ever watching or anything like this, I have the utmost respect for him. But that's the reality of the game. Somebody was coming in who had a better resume than me, had better projectability than me, and I realized that. And I realized that moving forward, that it was the moment when I got to Winthrop, I treated them a little bit like a business when it comes to scholarship and all that kind of stuff, because that's how they treated me earlier. And not a lot of people get to realize that till pro ball. And I want to add this because we're talking about it. I would like to add that for just anybody in any road. Don't play where you want to play. Play where they want you to play, because that's what's going to make the difference. If you're not on the field, if you're not being showcased to other people, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's a great point, because when I was in Miami, University of Miami, like told me verbatim that I was too small for their program. That was my dream school. So I heartbroken. I'm like, you know what? I want to stay in Miami. Like FIU has a good program. Terrell Thomas.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to go to a camp, and it's in Coastal. Like they showed me that they wanted me. Granted, Winthrop did too.
No, I get it. We get it.
Feeling that love, like they want me at the school.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it just feeling that love from a school, saying that they want you, even though it's out of your comfort zone, or if it's something a little different. Like if they have a future that like with me at like Coastal, they're like, hey, we see you as a shortstop, but to get you on the field, you might have to play a little bit of center field in the beginning because we want your bat.
Yeah.
Here, I was like, you guys want me here and play. That's all I came for. And I played my first weekend, my freshman year, is against Georgia Tech. I played center field. Never played outfield my day of my life. But, I was in the lineup.
That's what matters, is being in the lineup. It doesn't matter if as a freshman you have to move. Ultimately, you want to play the position you're draft eligible year and the year before that, but it's wanting you to be on the field. They want you to be a productive part of the organization, right.
Or your career is like, all they care was like, can we get this kid 200 at bats, wherever that's going to be. And then summer obviously is important.
Of course.
But yeah, and that was the big thing. So I was, and then looking back, it's like I'm so glad University of Miami didn't offer me that walk-on spot that I would have took, because I would have, like you, I didn't know that program, but I hear stories, and it's like I would have been just another number there, and you know, who knows what would have happened. Or even at FIU, like I hear stories there too. Granted, they're great programs and like for a good reason, but for guys that are, you know, not highly talked about, it's tougher.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's just every single dude that comes in is a dude.
Yeah.
You know, is an all-date, all-American, all something, has a hell of a resume. So, you know, it is kind of what it is. But and that's what makes these mid-majors kind of, especially the better mid-majors, you know, because we have some, you know, some whatever mid-majors, but the bigger mid-majors that you're actually, they're bringing in guys. They're either bringing in, you know, old D1s from big universities or whatnot, and you know, they get fortunate enough to find guys like you, and they you know, they highly invest. Or another great guy, they got a guy like Matt Crohan that we talked a little about earlier. You know, maybe wasn't a guy throwing early 90s out of high school, out of a small town in New York. All of a sudden is throwing 95, 97, you know, from the left side expected, you know, and his career due to injuries and things like that went a different way. But you know,
yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's a really good point. I think going to a school that wants you rather than a school.
Yeah, man. But Mikey, this was awesome, dude. Not only have I not talked to you and seen you in a little while, and I feel like that's how life gets, and it gets busy, but nice to catch up and hear from you, brother.
Yeah, same here, bro. Thanks for having me.
I hope you guys enjoyed that episode and learned something valuable from it. If you did, smash that like button, as it helps us reach more people just like yourself. But before you go, please consider hitting that subscribe button and turning on the bell notification, as my dedication to this YouTube channel and to this podcast is about to explode, and I don't want you guys to miss any of it out. So hit that bell notification, turn that subscriber on, and I know I said it backwards, but who cares? You guys know what I mean. See you guys next time.